Hi there, my name is Michael Ward and I'm the AEC Product Manager here at Central Innovation. I have worked as an architect previously on a variety of different projects, and some of them did require IFC. So I wanted to today talk about IFC and kind of lift the veil just a little bit by showing how a project translates from one application to another and then into Revit. And we'll see some of the differences as we go through. So I've chosen to use this project by Reload Architects. It's actually quite a detailed model, as you can see here. And we're just going to go through and export the file without changing any settings, just to show you what happens. So you can see that there's literally geometry everywhere. One thing to note is that this file is properly classified. So you can see the ArchiCAD classification there. You can see that walls have IDs, they're load-bearing elements, and they're positioned correctly as well. We also have renovation statuses. So look at this. The classification of this element is unclassified. That's fine because elements that are not classified are left as building element proxies, which may as well be this thing as an object. A piece of furniture, it doesn't really matter. Half the time that stuff can be filtered out. That's for a little bit too much detail to go into, so why don't we just kick on and go through the process of saving out an IFC. Now, 9 times out of 10, people who don't know the correct workflow will just go File, Save As, and so that's what we'll do. And then they'll have a look at this. They'll see quite a few different translators. We know that eventually we want to go to Revit, so I think Revit export for a reference model might be a good option. And we'll call this one test Revit export reference model. You can see I've already got one other test here. This is called general export, and that's literally just using the general export translator. We'll compare those in a program called BIMCollab, which is a free IFC viewer. So at the moment we can see that ArchiCAD is exporting this file, and it's happening quite quickly, which is good to see. The IFC engine in ArchiCAD is actually quite powerful. Now that has gone through, and we've got one error. Some elements exported have building materials that do not participate in collision detection. So potentially that's a translator issue, and it refers back to building materials and whether or not they participate in collision detection. Again, we're just going to ignore that because we're not doing best practices, and we'll have a look at our desktop. And we'll have a look first of all at this file, the general export. This is only slightly larger. We can see the typical structure of the project here by floor plan, which is great to see. And so we'll just kind of come around here. We can see that there's been some texture changes there. None of the surfaces have been exported. They actually don't go to IFC. We can see that there are some geometry issues here, especially where, for example, slab edges have just been painted. That stuff doesn't go out to IFC. IFC is more for just geometry export and data exports. If I click one of these, we can see that the type is there. So that's the composite name, for example. That would be the element ID. We can see this is on a specific layer. It's a standard wall, and here's some information about its location within the model. It doesn't clash with anything. So that's looking pretty good. Let's have a look at the other file that we just exported. And you can see that there's been some automatic filtering that's gone on. So the mesh isn't exported. Some of the objects have still been exported. The slope edges still look the same. Okay, that's kind of interesting. We've got our Ford Mustang still at the back, and obviously that's the most important thing. Alright, so let's have a look at how this file would look in Revit. So I'm just going to click on File, Open, and then I open the IFC file, and we'll just open our test. So obviously Revit doesn't run on a Mac, which is why I've got a separate Windows 10 instance which I can tap into. Looks like we're progressing quite well to opening this IFC file. That's good to see. The level of detail in this file is actually quite high. And here we go. So we've now got our ground floor plan. So ground floor plan, let's just pin this one over here, and I'm going to open up ArchiCAD and I'll have a look at our ground floor plan. And so we can see that there are obviously quite a few differences here. And this is because the floor plan information that we see in Revit is actually a projection of the 3D model. So we don't transfer any 2D elements, well, with the exception of things like door swings. That is actually just a limitation of IFC. I think the real thing that we're looking for, though, is how does a 3D model transfer. So we've got our 3D views here, and if I go to my perspective 3D, I can see that with Revit we've got this little window into our 3D model. So I can kind of have a look at the model, and for the most part, it looks kind of similar to what we saw in BIM Collab Zoom. Obviously the line weight is quite heavy, so let's just see if we can improve the level of detail on that. This might take a little while. Oh, okay, looks like we've just gone into a mud mode. I'm going to have this little crop view window, and you can have a better look at the 3D model at least. I might flick back into at least consistent colours. And for the most part the 3D model is fairly accurate. It's very similar to what we saw in BIM Collab Zoom. And of course we can take sections and elevations through this model, and we should be able to see what we see normally. So for example, let's draw a section, and we'll just open that section. And this is why IFC is so good for glitch detection and sending over the structure of elements, but obviously as a design transfer method it leaves a lot to be desired, and realistically if we wanted to send over floor plan information, CAD files is definitely still the way to go, because we can pick up things like our fills, our fill surfaces. They become hatches in AutoCAD. So let's just quickly save this as an AutoCAD file. So let's just quickly save this as an AutoCAD file. And then we'll open up AutoCAD. And we'll open up our DWG. And there is a function inside Revit which enables us to link the CAD file in. So a lot of the information that I've just shown you has been very brief, unapologetically so. There is really no magic button for getting an IFC file out of our CAD into Revit perfectly. It does require experience and training. Fortunately, we have got quite a lot of that training and the groundwork for that training already set up on MyCI. So if you do have a project and you know that you'll be working in or with IFC, please make sure to check out the vast library of webinars and webinar information that we have on MyCI about IFC files. And the easy way to find this out is to log into MyCI and check out the video section and search for IFC. Thank you for watching. I hope this has shed some illumination on the process, or at least what the process would result in without any IFC knowledge, and what we want is for people to do this properly. It is, as you can see, a longer method, and that's because it is a complex process, but when done properly it is repeatable and it is achievable. So again, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them through and we'll address them via the support channels.